Welcome back, everybody, to the Megatherium Club podcast. I'm Sean, and I'm here with Spencer for another fun time talking about interesting animals throughout time. Today's episode is rated R for raunchy reproduction. God, that sounds so bad to say.
Raunchy reproduction.
You might have heard us say the line sex sells in an episode or two in the past, and so we thought we would make it the theme of this episode. Now, I know we haven't done an episode in a little while, so this might be a little shorter than others. We'll see how it goes. The animal kingdom is a strange place, and everybody needs to reproduce to continue on. This, in turn, has created competition. Who gets to pass their genetic material on to the next generation? Each species is in a constant evolutionary battle, and not only with other species and the environment, but within itself as well. Males compete with each other for access to females. Females will even fight off other females in some species to guarantee her mate remains with her. Males also have to win over females through a variety of methods, as I'm sure we can both attest to. Isn't that right, Spencer?
That's exactly right.
And do you have anything else to say before we kick it off and get into our sexy animals?
No, just that I'm excited to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, so I guess before we dive in, what have you been doing?
Last spring I took a new job as a camp director, and I've been doing that all summer, running a summer camp, and it's been a lot of fun. We send our campers all over New England, and I mean we even have a Colorado trip, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's just when you run in a summer camp, you're kind of on the job 24/7, and took a little bit of a sabbatical to focus on my new job. And not to try to burn myself out of everything I love. So I appreciate you and your patience, Sean.
Yep.
But now that it's winter and I'm in the off season, I said winter as if
I was like, wait, it's
actually winter.
It's winter?
No,
I was sweating my balls off today.
And yeah, I know, right? And it's the off season. Get ready to record a lot of episodes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, I'll still have a fun schedule to work around, but yeah, we'll get to cranking these out again.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. And you've been up to just
Same. Working,
making that money,
making money, helping people, taking snakes out of people's homes, figuring out their bat situations, seeing what bugs they got in their houses, helping people out. Man, homes are not designed to keep wildlife out. That's for sure.
Nope.
So,
I currently have two. Well, nope. That's not true. I have one chipmunk living in my house.
Oh.
Semi-living in my house. I had one coming in through the front door and one coming in through the back door. And I finally caught the one that was coming in through the front door.
Spencer, you're supposed to shut the door.
Excuse me. I will tell you. Unfortunately, my front door, I need to ask to get it replaced. But I can see basically
under
through
it?
the bottom of it. It's not great. It's just a really old door, and it doesn't quite fit right on the frame.
They make a product for that.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Be a salesman.
Yeah. So we can help you out with this excluder product designed to keep away rodents. It has little bristles at the bottom of it. I'm sure I'm probably pitching this pretty badly, but hey, you don't have to replace the whole door. We can save you some money and just protect the bottom. Now, I don't know anything about the sides or the top, but
sides, the top are fine. The bottom is basically peeling away. It's not great. It needs to be replaced, but it's fine. I have pretty low standards because
in mates or
wrapping around full circle. No, I have very high standards in mates. Maybe I haven't been so lucky in the past to all of my exes out there who hate me. So, yeah. Well, speaking of mates,
yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Screw it. We don't know what the other person has chosen for their
So I
topic.
guess we're about to find out
Yeah.
if we chose the same.
Yeah. I'll go first.
All right, let's hear it.
So I wanted to start with an animal that I knew existed since I can remember reading animal encyclopedias as a child, but it never gained my attention until I watched a documentary discussing their mating habits. I don't know what that says about me, but I am talking about cuttlefish, or more specifically, the giant cuttlefish, or oh gosh, I didn't even practice this one. Ascarosepian apama, yeah, you know the tradition. I'm bad at scientific names. This is the largest of the cuttlefish, as its name suggests, reaching lengths between 20 and 39 inches long, weighing over 20 pounds. It's like the size of my dog. Jeez. Located along the southern coast of Australia, these are marine species related to animals like octopi and squids, as well as other cephalopods. Like its relatives, cuttlefish skin contains chromatophores, or iridophores, and lucifores, which are very cool and could spend an entire episode discussing how these change and what layers they are in the skin and how they function, but another time maybe. These allow the cuttlefish to produce patterns in red to yellow, white, as well as the entire visible spectrum from blue to nearly infrared. The way these skin organs are layered means their displays can produce polarized patterns, which is extremely rare in the animal kingdom, and they do this for communication between individuals as well as for hunting. And again, I could probably talk about all these different patterns and what it means in very great depth, but then we would be missing the point of this episode. But one takeaway message is that cuttlefish can't see colors, but they can see contrast, which is really important when it comes to polarizing. And again, I will limit myself to the theme of this episode, sex, and why these polarized patterns are important. Females will display a receptive pre-copulatory, or pre-sex, if you will, gray pattern to let males know they're ready to do the sex. Simple enough, right? Probably most animals have a form of communication between the male and female where there is some sort of receptivity sign before the mating takes place. The really cool part about cuttlefish and how it relates to mating is how the smaller males will pretend to be females in order to mate with the ladies. How does that work, you might think? Well, the large males will guard the females and fight off other males to ensure their genetics are the ones that get passed along. Male cuttlefish are sexually dimorphic from females, keep in mind, but which, if you aren't sure what that means, essentially, there is a physical difference in appearance of a male version and female version of the animal. Think a rooster and hen, or a male and female lion. You likely know which one is which without having to look under their skirt. Back to the cuttlefish, though. Usually, the fourth arms are a telltale sign to look for, with the males having longer arms than the females. Well, these smaller males stand no chance at fighting against these larger males for rights to mate with the ladies. So they hide their fourth arms and even change the shape of the rest of their tentacles to mimic non-receptive females and change their skin pattern to look like the girls. They sneak right past the big boys and get cozy with the women, but they still need to attract the females, so they position themselves to show half their body to the female and display the courtship pattern on one side and the female pattern on the other side facing the males. In the name of sex, if being a big dominant male doesn't work, be more feminine and you might just get lucky. A strategy that probably also pays off in the human species as well. And yeah, then it just works for them.
Yeah. That's incredible.
I think that's just a crazy strategy. But I mean, also like pretty relatable in the human species. You definitely have dominant males and you have less dominant males and a wide range of femininity, oh my gosh, masculinity and the female side of that word amongst all sexes. So.
Yeah. Incredible. That's so your talk is eerily similar to mine, which I'm spoiling mine, I guess, a little bit, but that's okay because it's quite interesting. So, but before we transition into mine, I saw a cuttlefish when I was in Puerto Rico, and I was just like swimming in the ocean off of one of the islands that Puerto Rico owns. That's kind of just off the coast a little bit. I think it was Vieques, but anyway. And I'm kind of far out, but it's not. It stays really shallow for a really long time. At least the beach where I was, and I was just kind of floating, looking down, using some goggles. I might have had a snorkel on, but I don't remember. And all of a sudden, all these cuttlefish came up and like basically, I wouldn't say sat because that's not the right word, stayed still in like a perfectly straight line in front of me as if I was like speaking to them and they were my audience. And they would change colors in like a cascading event. One would be this kind of color and it would flash down and then it'd flash back in this like linear line with like an actual like beat to it. And that was really cool. Huh. And they just stood there looking at me, like clearly watching me do my thing while I watched them do theirs.
Was it hunting you?
No, they were just, I think they were just curious, you know? And I like reached out because they were right in front of me to like try to see if I could like touch one. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I made contact with it, that one went transparent. And then in a flash, almost all the rest went transparent and just scattered.
Huh.
And it was really interesting. So I'm really glad you picked the good old cuttlefish.
Yeah, they're fascinating creatures.
Wow. I get why you'd be interested in them after watching a documentary on their mating.
Yeah. I mean, before they just kind of look like, I don't know, almost like a lame version of a squid.
Yeah.
But like I feel like squids and octopi are very unique, and then you have this cuttlefish in the middle that's kind of like just kind of like a mixture of both, but then
but like
they're very
if you took like a squid and you simplified it as basic as possible.
But don't they have a cuttlefish bone like that? It's probably not actually bone, but cartilage that if one dies, it's the only piece left.
Cuttle bone.
Yes. That's cool. I've never seen one in the wild, so I'm jealous that you've seen that.
Oh, I don't think I'll ever see something like it again. I got lucky, I guess. So that's pretty cool. Everybody else saw like I think a few sea turtles, which I didn't get to see, but it's all trade-offs. So
cool.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump into mine here, and so I was trying to figure out what to talk about because, like you said, this is so much. There's so much here. Sex sells a lot. Many, many animals and groups of animals. And I kind of went with one that I kind of went, I guess, back to my roots, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And thinking about stuff I've talked about in my class. And I had one student the first year I taught entomology whose favorite insect was the stag beetle.
Ooh.
And I kind of got through that through, a few dominoes, but they essentially do the same thing as the other insects I was interested in doing. But stag beetles, they're beetles belonging to the family Lucanidae. They're large. Well, they vary in size, but the largest of them can be pretty large. So, like for example, in Europe, some of the largest beetles in Europe are stag beetles. And for those of you who don't know, think of a really big beetle. And then think of a beetle with really big jaws that come out kind of like laterally, I guess, off to the sides and kind of scoop around.
Think of the Pokemon pincer.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
And so there are lots of others like the rhinoceros beetle, which has a big horn on its head. The Hercules beetle, similar. But the stag beetles are a little bit simpler, but they do have really big jaws. And those jaws are specifically found on the males, and they're used as weapons essentially in fierce battle over mates. And we've talked about maybe before, and you might have heard it in your biology classes, the 4 F's that drive our behavior. Well, 3 of them apply in this situation, but one of them not necessarily the way you might think. The 3 that I want to talk about is we have fight and flight and mating.
That's an M. Spencer,
That's the whole.
What's the F version?
Fucking.
There goes our PG label.
Yep, that's okay. We could be PG-13 and have one F-bomb.
Well, just one F-bomb, yeah.
So let's break it down a little bit. There's kind of 3 main steps that these stag beetles go about. The first is the actual search for a mate. So in early summer, male stag beetles emerge as adults, and they fly mostly at dusk around and looking for a mate. And what they're looking for are the females, obviously. But the females have the same general body plan, but they have much smaller mandibles. And they're typically found near the ground, near decaying wood. That's where they'll lay their eggs. So females, like many animals, release pheromones that attract males to their location. But males can be attracted to both the female pheromones and sap flows, rotting wood, the stuff that rotting wood kind of releases out into the air, ethanol and stuff like that. So these beetles are searching for that because if they can find that, maybe there'll be a female present. And he might be the first one there. But essentially what happens is once a female is ready to mate, she's released the pheromones, all of these males are going to come in and they're going to fight. And they engage in combat, and they use these huge antler-like mandibles to do that. So when they meet, they raise their heads up and they open their mandibles wide, and essentially like an initial like, hey, what's up? Yeah. And then they engage in the actual wrestling match where they do this like sumo style wrestling where they kind of butt into each other and essentially attempt to throw the mate away. And this might mean throwing them out of this like general area. If they happen to be on like a fallen log or something, then they'll throw the mate off the log, depending on where they're at. But essentially the idea is to get one of them defeated by throwing them off of something, turning them on their back, and then that male will win. But you might have many, many males competing for one female, and there's lots of fighting going on, and it's kind of a display of the toughness and the biggest until one male dominates above all. Then, once he's defeated his rivals, he begins a courtship ritual, which he will approach the female, circling around, raising his mandibles up her in kind of like a, hey, yeah, did you see how tough I am? And if the female accepts it, which, if she usually does at that point, the male will go behind her. And if you notice, like I've been calling their mandibles antler-like because they have these horns, these horn-like appendages that kind of stick inside. And it's eerily weird how from the tip of their mandible to their first initial little horn, that fits perfectly to kind of hold on to the, in between the female's head and thorax, so that he can hold on while the copulation is actually occurring. And it can last from several minutes to hours, depending on that. And once copulation is done, the male essentially attempts to get rid of the female and kind of tosses her to the side to make sure that other males aren't going to kind of come up and try to mate with her as well.
He just throws her away when he's done with her.
Yeah.
Get over there.
Brutal world. So I don't know what's better, giving somebody taxi money, or I guess nowadays it'd be Venmoing
Uber
someone
money
for an
Yeah.
Uber.
Oh yeah.
Or just tossing them out the balcony. So,
Thanks.
thanks, appreciate it.
Go back to that corner.
That's exactly right. So, sometimes I'm glad to be a human. We can actually do the niceties. But anyway, here's the twist. Like yours, not every stag beetle plays by the same rules, and some of them do things in a little bit different way. So I read a report on the European stag beetle, Lucanus cervus. It's the largest beetle in Europe. It's a protected species. It's what's called a flagship species, meaning that it has, culturally and environmentally importance to that area. And so people protect it for those reasons. But it's also declining, so there's lots of reasons to protect it as well. And so these scientists, they were watching and they were observing this typical kind of, one-on-one combat between the largest of the males. But you mentioned, Sean, this thing called sexual dimorphism, where males look a lot different from females. But like yours in the cuttlefish, males also differ and can differ specifically in stag beetles pretty significantly to make up what's called polymorphism, where males can either be really big and their mandibles are disproportionately bigger than some of the other males who have much smaller mandibles, even though they're the same species. And the idea is, well, how could the smaller males with the smaller mandibles even try to compete and fight against these other ones? They just can't. So they cheat, similar to what yours are, but they obviously can't change their color. But what they do is try to get the females before the other males even have a chance to find them. Okay. So instead of these ground battles, researchers were looking at what they eventually would call flight aggregations, where a swarm of beetles will circle up in the air waiting for a female to fly kind of by. And the males will all chase after her and try to grab her in the air. Huh. And so, well, what happens? The smaller males win more often because they're lighter, they're more agile, and they're better flyers. Their smaller jaws don't weigh them down, and they're able to essentially outspeed and outmaneuver these larger males that have these big, huge, giant mandibles, and they grab onto the females, which immediately causes both of them to fall to the ground, where the goal is to mate with her as fast as possible before all of the males chasing them catch up and throw them off.
One pump chump. That's the strategy.
That's exactly right. And they found that it's actually successful. But it's only successful if they can grab them midair and they can fall down quickly enough. Because if the mating hasn't started, but
before
by the time these
boys,
larger males come off, they'll essentially just rip that little guy off and go in and take their prize, quote unquote, right? So it's an interesting means, right? Evolution doesn't always produce this one type of thing in animals. Yeah. Multiple strategies can come about, each with their pros and cons, in order to actually make passing along your genes possible within the same species, which I think is fun. And it's interesting that you and I both chose examples of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I wonder, in the future, which direction the evolution is going to push it. Will there be more pressure for them to be speedier, lighter, reducing their stag, their mandible size so they can be faster, or is there going? Yeah, I don't know. Where
is the selective pressure most at right now?
Yeah,
because
I don't know. I feel like, they've only gained these large mandibles because evolution pressured them to have bigger and larger ones, and now it's kind of moving the other direction where it's too much. It's
Right.
slowing them down. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. And the researchers, they're Italian, so I'm not even going to attempt to say their names. um, but they didn't talk about the future there. Their paper was actually quite short, but it was super interesting to kind of read. But where this comes about is what I was thinking about initially was this thing that has kind of been going on for a long time, specifically in Asian countries, China, Japan, the Philippines, where people will essentially, pit beetles together against each other and bet on it, similar to chicken fighting. And so they will selectively breed for these beetles to have, to be bigger and stronger. And if yours is a better male, then it can be worth tons and tons of money because this is such like a big thing that they've done so long. And it's so popular that today I learned there's this thing called Mushy King. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's called the King of Beetles.
Not the King of
the Battle of Beetles. In 2003, a collectible card game arcade game developed by Sega put out these essentially playing cards that you would use in an actual like arcade game machine and carry out battles electronically between beetles. And there's like 36 different beetles to collect, and they're all different species, and you'd essentially like fight them against other people. So you'd have these, it's like if you were to play Magic the Gathering Arena, but you had to have the physical cards in order to play it.
Okay.
Kind of like that.
Where can I sign up?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't necessarily know if it's still much a thing. I didn't read a whole lot about it. Most of everything ends in 2006 to 2008.
Wow.
So yeah.
I just thought about another, sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought of another animal that this strategy might take place in, and that is salmon. Because salmon go out to sea for 2 years and come back when they're mature and mate and die. Well, after working in Alaska and working at a salmon hatchery, I can tell you that there are, I forget what we called them, but small males that are returning after only 1 year out at sea or in the ocean trying to mate as well. So there's like an evolutionary advantage to them, like, oh, I don't need to wait 2 years to spread my seed. I'll just do it in one. But they're much smaller. And now I don't know if they're combating at all or if there's some advantage. Maybe they're faster. They're definitely smaller. You can recognize them if you're fishing or at a salmon hatchery, obviously. And we tried to we selected against them when we would breed, if you will, the fish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, well, no one wants those.
No, smaller fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Were there some other honorable mentions that you thought of?
One that I was thinking of, and it is what it is. So hippopotamus. So okay, I guess let me back up. Many animals have glands that surround their anus, and think like a skunk, right? The most iconic version of that, where they spray you by facing their butt towards you. Well, so many animals have those glands, and they're used in a variety of ways, such as defense, but in many cases it's used as a way for animals to communicate with, members of their own species of the opposite sex to say, I'm ready for mating. And specifically, hippos, they have glands that release pheromones. Males do this thing where essentially they want to release their pheromones out into the water, into the air, to tell females like, hey, it's time, get ready. And they will, as they're pooping, they will swing their tail back and forth super duper fast. So they're pooping. At the same time, these pheromone glands are releasing pheromones, mixing with the poop, and their tail is flinging it across the land.
Nice.
And they'll just sit there and poop, and it just squirts out. It's horrible to watch.
This is what I do, but not intentionally.
Yeah. Your wife must be so proud.
We have separate bathrooms for a reason.
Yeah, now that you're already together, she's like, yeah, I'm over this.
Yeah. Our only requirements is 2 bathrooms in the house.
Yeah, beautiful. So that was kind of my honorable mention that I wanted to talk about.
Gotcha. There's a couple I had thought about. There was the sea slug that they stab each other in the face with their stabby penis projection thing, and then
yep, classic.
Inject the phrase I saw was prostate. They stab each other between like the eyes and inject prostate fluids to inseminate each other. And I was like, man, that's one gruesome line. It's just to stab someone with your penis stylet between the eyes and inject prostate fluid. That was
that's a way to spend the weekend with the boys. So, no,
with the boys.
They're hermaphroditic, so they can lay eggs and fertilize eggs.
Yeah,
which is why 2 males. You can't really call them males, but that's why 2 sea slugs are fighting.
Yeah, they can't fertilize their own eggs, and for genetic reasons, they want to have a combination. Usually, evolution doesn't favor clones, but there are definitely cases of that within the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
But
cool.
Yeah, we might have to revisit this one because there are so many options out there. And we didn't even touch on like the bowerbirds that make crazy nest designs just to attract someone.
Right. Yeah, and just the amount of animals that specifically change their environment to attract a female. So
yeah, what does it say between us? Neither one of us wanted to pick the animal that impresses the female the most. What we both chose is an option for the weaker version of the males to copulate. I don't know what that says.
I was thinking that said something about me when I was finally picking it.
Hey.
So, underdogs got to have a win every once in a while.
I guess, yeah. We see ourselves like we see these animals, I guess. I don't know.
That's all right.
But, all right.
Well, on that note, I think we'll end it. It's been good to get back into recording, but I think it's time to play some magic.
I agree.
How?